This show is sponsored by Sevi, answering all your commercial real estate needs. Sevi is the first commercial real estate company committed to the 4 C's: commercial real estate, community, content, and culture. Go visit Sevi at Sevi, SEVI, properties.com. Again, SeviProperties.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest for you that I've known for many years. We go way back. We have Zachary Myers. Zack is the attorney and partner at Feinberg Myers PC. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Zack.
Thanks, Otto. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course, the pleasure is all mine. Before we get started into your personal and business journey and story here, I'd like the audience to get to know, the business a little bit better in case they haven't heard and they're like, what is Feinberg Myers? If you can just give us a brief general overview as far as what you folks do there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a boutique personal injury law firm. We have 3 attorneys in our office. Total staff is roughly about 9 or 10 people, including paralegals, receptionists, bookkeepers, and things like that. But we have been around since 1980. The firm was started by Judy Feinberg in 1980, and she's actually my mother. And she was on her own for many years, sometimes having a smaller firm, sometimes having 3, 4 other attorneys work for her. But it's always been a personal injury firm, and a boutique firm, meaning, a smaller firm where we focus mostly on giving clients great attention, making sure we're always calling them back. We're not one of these firms that advertise on TV where you see one guy in a commercial and then that person never ever looks at you or touches your case. It's always someone lower down. So we make sure that we are giving good client attention and always being there to answer our clients' needs and have their questions answered, which is something a boutique firm is able to do. So my mom, Judy, started this firm in 1980, and she had been doing it for a very long time herself. She's been an attorney now for 40 plus years. And I became an attorney in 2011. When I became an attorney then, I didn't want to just start working with my mom right away. When you get out of law school, you take the bar and you pass the bar. They teach you how to think. That's really what you learn in law school, is how to think like a lawyer, how to analyze something. But they don't actually teach you how to go in a courtroom and practice law and how to file motions, how to try a case, what you're supposed to do. So I went and worked with another law firm in Silver Spring for about 4 years, and they threw me right into it, gave me a big list of clients, had me going to circuit court doing jury trials, had me going to the district court doing trials with the judge, which we call a bench trial. We were doing that a lot. And after I realized I could handle pretty much any kind of personal injury case, from a small case to a very complex case from start to finish, that's when I wanted to go and start working with my mom. And that was in 2015 that my mom and I partnered together. It's crazy to think now how quickly time flies by. We started working together at the beginning of 2015. I think it was March or April. And now we're, in June 2024, so 9 years later. And we've, been doing great since I started working with her. We've grown the firm. We've added another paralegal, actually several paralegals. We've added another attorney. And we've, grown our caseload, and that's what we do. But we just do personal injury cases. People call us all the time and say, hey, can you help me with this, small criminal matter? I got a ticket. Or can you help me with a divorce? Or do you know someone who does immigration? And, I know a lot of attorneys just, being in this area and meeting a lot of my colleagues. So I can refer those cases out to other people. But we like to just focus on one small niche of the community, which is personal injury cases. For the most part, that's auto accidents, because that's the most common thing. I mean, especially with all the drivers around here in this area. But there's some weird, quirky cases we get sometimes too. Some weird premises liability cases, like tripping on something, slipping on something, or doing medical malpractice cases like that too. So that's really what we focus on, and I'd like to think we're pretty good at it, being that that's all we've really done for several years.
Yeah. And I could definitely attest as far as the client service, just personally, working with you. And I've also referred you people, and you're always available. and on point, and that's fantastic.
Thanks, Otto. No, I really appreciate those referrals.
Of course, my pleasure. So I like the audience to get to know you now a little bit on the personal side. Are you originally here from the DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia area?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Born in DC at Columbia Hospital for Women. It's not there anymore, but that's in Northwest DC, not far from the Foggy Bottom area. I lived in DC for the first few years of my life. And then when my younger brother was born, my parents wanted a bigger house. So they moved out into Montgomery County. So I grew up in Montgomery County. I ended up going to school at St. Andrews, which is a private school in Potomac, and went there for middle school and high school. So, really my roots are here in this area. Um, when I finished with high school, I knew I always wanted to be in this area. My roots are deep here, and I've always loved living in Maryland. But I thought of college as an opportunity to live somewhere else. And I knew for college, I wanted to leave. I wanted to go somewhere warm. So I looked at schools in Florida. I looked at schools in Arizona and California. I ended up going to University of Arizona. Had a great time there. And again, for law school, it's again 3 more years where you can live wherever you want. You're not tied down. And I really use these opportunities to live in other parts of the country and see what that's like. So I went to law school in Los Angeles at Southwestern Law School. And after living on the West Coast for 7 years between college and law school, I was ready to make the move back. And so I came back to Maryland, and I've been living here ever since then in 2011, going on over 13 years now.
So you never saw yourself permanently being a West Coast resident? You missed the East Coast too much?
I have my family here, my friends are here. I had a lot of friends I made in college, and a lot of the people when you're in Arizona are from California. So when I moved to California for law school, I actually knew a lot of people there, but it just wasn't where my heart is. I love LA. I love the weather. I love the beach. I love being able to talk with friends of mine in January and say I'm wearing shorts. But but at the end of the day, this is where my heart is back here in the DMV.
Yeah. So Zach, growing up in DC and Montgomery County, I know your mother is your partner as well in the business. Were you always inclined to maybe go into this law field and career, or did you ever think of or consider something else differently back then?
Well, it's always something that's been kind of in the back of my mind. Um, I remember one time when I was in elementary school, my mom had a huge case that was in front of the DC Court of Appeals, and um, it was about someone. And I remember this from, gosh, we're talking like could be 30 years ago, maybe a little less than that, but it was someone who was injured while they were an inmate, and so, my mom was representing that person and making a case against, where they were being held. And we took a class field trip. My mom invited my class, my elementary school class, to come and watch her in this trial. And of course, we wouldn't sit there for the whole trial or sit there for the whole day. But I remember going there for a couple hours, and I thought it was really cool. And I thought it was cool that it was my mom doing it, but I just thought it was a really cool thing to do. And ever since then,
Hmm.
I've always thought, I could be a lawyer. I'd like to be a lawyer. That's cool to be a trial lawyer, be in the courtroom. Some kids, um, they say, I want to be an astronaut or
Yeah.
whatever it may be, or I want to be a firefighter. But I always thought it was cool to see that. So I guess the apple didn't fall too far from the tree. And, there was a lot of times I'd go to my mom's office. Back then, when I was younger, my mom always had offices in downtown DC, in the K Street area or somewhere around there where a lot of the law firms are. And I just always thought it was cool. So it was something that was in the back of my mind. And when I went to college, I didn't know what else I would want to do. So one thing I thought that was really interesting was real estate development. And I if you got to think about the time frame I went to college. I was in college from 2004 to 2008. And when I first started college, the real estate market was great. And people were, doing very well in
Mm-hmm.
development, whether that's, small developments or just making large scale developments, especially when I went to college in Arizona. Arizona was booming at that time, oh 04, oh 05, oh 06. They were booming. And I took a major in real estate development there. They actually call it regional development, but that's really essentially what it was, is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how to become a developer, what you need to do, and you had to take a lot of classes about science and geology and knowing about soil and things like that. But um, there was a lot of speakers that came and talked with us in our different, lectures about what it was like to be a real estate developer, and these were all successful guys. And then you fast forward to the last year or two of my college, 2007, 2008. Not a good time to be
Mm-hmm.
a real estate developer, not a good time to be anything that had to do with real estate at all at that time. And so, all these jobs that I was looking at, they were drying up. And I always, in the back of my mind, always thought law school would be great. I've always thought being a trial attorney is a great thing. I mean, being in the courtroom and, commanding people's attention. And I just always was interested in that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to law school. And so I applied to law school and then ended up going to law school, like I said, at Southwestern Law School in LA. And while I was there, I quickly realized what types of law I did not want to do. And I always liked, again, the personal injury field because I knew that and always liked, about being in court. But I was always an attorney or wanted to be an attorney who met with clients, was helping people, was in court, not someone who sat in an office and went through 1,000 documents in a day or just wrote contracts. That's not
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted to do as a lawyer. And when I went to law school, I realized, and all the classes I took, wow, I have no interest in doing this. I have no interest in doing that. I took bankruptcy law. It was hard to stay awake. I I I took a class, in family law, and I thought I don't want to deal with family law. It's too
Yeah.
emotional, and people get unreasonable with each other out of spite, and it's just not where I wanted to be. I took other classes too, and the more classes I took, the more I realized I really kept gravitating back to being a trial lawyer, being in a courtroom. I thought one of the most interesting classes I took was evidence, about what can be evidence, what can't be evidence, what's hearsay, what's an exception to hearsay. And I found that to be very interesting. And just the more and more I went deeper into my legal education, it was clear what path I was going to be going down. And so that's kind of where I ended up where I am. I do wonder every once in a while if the real estate market and development and everything like that stayed the same in 2007, 8, 9, 10, if I had gone into that field, where I would have ended up. But I have no regrets with where I am. I'm very happy to be an attorney and be a trial lawyer. And it's very satisfying too when you can really help someone, especially when the insurance company isn't treating them fairly. So,
Yeah.
I do feel good about that.
That's great. I also know many great attorneys who dabble with real estate on the side. So that's something you can always do on the side if you have time or the inclination to do.
Something to think about. I've kind of moved on past that part of my life.
Yeah.
Um, and because the thing about being a lawyer, it's a lot like being a doctor in that you really specialize in one thing. And once you learn one thing, specialize in one thing, you don't really go outside of that so much. And of course, there's general practice doctors like your primary care doctor who you see for pretty much anything under the sun. And there's lawyers like that too. There's lawyers who, and a lot of times they're solo practitioner lawyers, but they say, hey, I can help you with whatever you need. You need a will? I got you. You got into a car accident? I got you. You got a DUI? I got you. And, I've come to realize that those lawyers know a lot about a little. And same thing with doctors. A lot of times they know a lot about a little, but, just like doctors, if you need to have a brain surgery, you're not going to go see a podiatrist for that. The
Hmm.
podiatrist knows about the foot. You have a problem with your foot, that's who you see. You need to, have a brain surgery, you need to see a neurosurgeon. And just similar to that with attorneys, and we don't have as many labels like doctors do. But there's I feel like the best attorneys focus on one aspect of the law. And that's what we try to do with personal injury. We try to focus on those cases. We know a lot of the good doctors around. We know a lot of the bad doctors around who our clients can see. We know how different insurance companies work. They all have different playbooks on how they handle cases. Who is going to dig in, who is going to fold if you sue them. Different insurance companies, they all handle these cases differently. You can have the same case and three, four different insurance companies will all give you different settlement offer on the same case. And you got to know how to push the right buttons with each insurance company. And that's all stuff you learn in time. So, kind of coming full circle on that, I'm happy with where I'm at, and to think about going into a new aspect of the law, not something I'm thinking about at the moment.
Yeah. Zach, I know you said when you left California and then you moved back to the East Coast, you mentioned a firm you were with in Silver Spring and others, and you know everything you learned there. Now being 9, going to 10 years, being in partners with your mother, how is that relationship, as one partner and then also mother?
The lines get blurred, and more
Okay.
so the work lines get blurred into the personal lives more than the other way around. I mean, you know, I'll be hanging out with my mom and my daughter, and just maybe we're going to the park, maybe it's a Saturday, maybe we're at the pool, and the conversation always ends up going to work. What do you think about this case? What do you think about that case? So, but we have a great relationship. I mean, because I work with my mom and she's my business partner, we talk multiple times a day. I mean, I think it's almost rare for a full day to go by and we don't talk. And most of those conversations are about work, but there's always something talking about, how's my daughter doing? How's my wife doing? What's going on? What am I doing this weekend? So we actually have a good relationship. And I think that my mom and I are similar in many ways. I like to think I'm an easygoing person, and so is my mom. And so it does help us to get along. I do know some people have said to me, friends of mine or colleagues say, I have no idea how you work with one of your parents. I could never do that. But I guess I'm fortunate to have a great mom and who's a nice person, a patient person, and we get along really well. But yeah, that's a good question because people do ask me about that. And I guess, if you were to get my wife on this podcast, she would tell you every time we're together, even if it's for a barbecue or whatever, the conversation always ends up with work. But
Yeah.
if that's okay with me, it's okay with her. I think we have a pretty good balance, with
I was gonna
things.
say, but I think you and your mom probably enjoy that. If you happen to be, like you said, in a family event or a playground, and then just happen to be talking about a case, it's pleasurable for you and her. But maybe if you're with a friend or another family member who's not an attorney, it might not be, right?
Yeah, they're like, all right, can we talk about something else now? But
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a thing that just happens with attorneys. Like I have other friends who are attorneys that, a lot of them do personal injury work and we may catch up and you know, 3/4 of the time we're hanging out, we're just telling war stories.
Yeah.
That's what we call them. But talking about trials and how this case went and how that case went. We have those conversations a lot, and of course, we could be talking about anything, but it's something we're all interested in, and so and we're all everyone that's a good lawyer is will tell you they're learning every day. They don't have it mastered. Things are always changing and evolving. Laws are changing. Juror perspectives are changing, and so it's good to chat with other people and kind of get different perspectives and see how they think about things too. I think everyone who does this kind of enjoys that.
You mentioned you have a younger brother, and I'm curious, did he also go into law or totally something different?
No, no, he is not the same kind of guy as me. He's a smart guy. He's a great guy, but he's not really a studious guy, a bookworm, a school
Okay.
guy. But my brother's really smart, but he went a total different field than I did.
Okay. Okay. That's good. What would you say, Zach, drives and motivates you?
I really like to do well for people. I really like to help my clients. And that's why I knew I never wanted to be an insurance defense lawyer. I never wanted to be the kind of person who their job is to try to poke holes in people's cases and tell them that they're not as hurt as they are. They don't deserve the money that they're asking for. They don't, shouldn't be compensated for all the time they miss from work. What really motivates me is when I finish a case for someone and I truly have helped them and I truly have changed things for them in a positive way. Every client I have, no matter how much money they get, always says, I wish this never happened to me. I wish we could press a button and hit undo. And, I didn't drive that day. I didn't go to work that day. I didn't walk out of the store that way, whatever it may be. Everyone says that. No one, I don't feel people really ever get fully compensated because nobody really would take what settlement they get, what verdict they get, and say, I'm happier with this than what happened to me on that particular day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but unfortunately, we can't hit the reset button. That's not how life works. So, all we can do is, with our system of justice, is try to compensate someone for what they've gone through. First and foremost, we have to make sure all their medical care is covered. And if they're going to need future medical care, because I have a lot of clients who they are going to need future medical care. I have some clients who will need care for the rest of their lives. And we have to come up with a life care plan and have a nurse review that and, come up with what reasonable treatment this person's going to need in the future. And we have to try to account for that too. And then we have some clients who they miss a good amount of time from work, or they get hurt so badly they can't ever work again. And we have to make sure that they're going to be taken care of. And a lot of people call us and they say, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I have no idea how to handle this situation. I know I'm hurting. I don't even know what kind of doctors to see. I'm not working. I don't know what to do about paying my bills. And, to help someone guide through this difficult time in their life or this dark period in their life that they didn't ask to be put in this position, it really is a good feeling when someone says to you, thank you. I don't know what I would have done without your help here. And that's what motivates me. That's really what I feel good about at the end of the day, is knowing that, it may just be one person here or there, but I'm actually making a difference in someone's life. And, it sounds a little cheesy to say that, right? I mean, but that really is true. I mean, I really am motivated by helping people. And what kind of fuels my fire even more is seeing how insurance companies treat people. I mean, if insurance companies were fair to people, I wouldn't have a job. There would be no need to have an attorney after a personal injury case. If insurance companies said, we're sorry you're hurt, we're going to cover all your medical bills, we're going to cover all the time you miss from work, and if you need care for several years down the line, we're going to take care of that for you. But they don't. They say, oh, you hurt yourself playing soccer 10 years ago. That's why you have problems now. I mean, they always come up with something ridiculous as to why they don't want to pay people's cases, why they don't want to fairly compensate them, or they think someone who, could be severely injured and not working for a while, why they, basically should have toughed it up and figured out something else to do. And these insurance companies, it's just not fair how they treat people, and their businesses. That's what they care about. They care about collecting the premiums for the insurance policies and then paying out as little of that as they possibly can get away with doing when it comes time to paying a claim. And so, it's twofold. I like to help people, but I also don't like to see these insurance companies taking advantage of people either. So, it's, sometimes people call me and they say, hey, I was trying to do this on my own. And I thought that they would be nice to me and be fair to me. And they seemed nice when I first talked to the insurance company. But now that it's come down to dollars and cents, I realize that they don't care about me and they're offering me this. And, we get involved with the case at that point a lot of times. And if the insurance company was just fair to the person, the case would have settled and gone away. And now there's an attorney in the case. Now we have to sue them and file a lawsuit. And they end up paying so much more money than they could have if they had just been reasonable with the person originally.
Yeah.
So, that's what kind of keeps me going.
Yeah. I mean, you can clearly see that you care. You love what you do. I mean, just looking at your online reviews, I mean, you guys have all 5 stars. So there's a perfect example there, and all the great reviews you see.
That's important to me. I really want to make sure our clients are happy. If a client's call is not returned right away, it bothers me. I think about it overnight and think, all right, first thing tomorrow, I have to call this person back. I want to make sure our clients are happy and feel like they have good communication. And one thing that I realized that angers clients the most is lack of communication. And because where I see that is people call us and they say, hey, I had an accident or I had this issue happen. I hired this other attorney and they just ghosted me. I don't hear from them. I call them. I call 5 times. They don't respond. I send an email. They don't respond. And can you take over my case? And sometimes it's too deep into it for us to take it over. And sometimes we can. But that is the most common reason I see where people want to switch attorneys is they say, there's just no communication with who's representing me. And look, I get we're all busy. All attorneys are busy, but you can't take on more cases than you're able to handle. And if you do, then you need to expand your business. But if you don't hire more people, but you can't just leave your clients hanging. And I think that our reviews, I think we have over 75-star reviews. I think our reviews show that we care about our clients and we're willing to go, all the way to the end and give that extra push for them. And that's what I think separates us from a lot of the firms you see, especially ones you see who advertise on TV. Honestly, that's the biggest disaster I see where people call us and they say, hey, I called this firm I saw on TV. I thought that they would help me. They're, got their big name and they seem to probably have a lot of lawyers, but then you just become another, cog in the wheel when you're at one of these big firms that takes on hundreds of cases a month. They're not a smaller firm that really takes a look at each case, has attorneys reviewing cases all the time, instead of just a legal assistant, where we really try to give that individual attention to each case and make sure our clients, are happy. And some clients, they're okay to say, hey, call me when you have an update. I'm cool. I trust you. No big deal. And some clients, they want to talk every week. What's going on this week? What's changed since last week? And sometimes there's no difference this week to last week, but they still want to hear from you, and that's okay. We're happy to do that as long as, they're happy and we're all on the same page about things.
Zach, you mentioned people calling. What is the best time? Let's say someone gets injured. And should they immediately call you, or should they first see how they feel, or go see medical attention? What do you recommend as far as the course of action when something happens like that?
It's a good idea to talk to an attorney before you talk to the insurance company. I mean, I've had people who call me from the accident scene. And I'm like, is an ambulance coming? Are you getting checked out? Are you okay? Are the police there? I'm like, why don't you kind of figure things out there and then call me? One thing I will tell someone, though, if they call me from an accident scene, take photos. Take lots and lots of photos. Photos of where the cars ended up, photos of the other car, photos of your own car. I mean, you can always get photos later of your own car, but once you leave that accident scene, you're most likely never seeing the other car again. So you want to make sure you take pictures of the damage on all the cars. And if the cars haven't moved, sometimes after an accident, people pull over and get out of the way. But if you get out of your car and the other person gets out of their car and they're all in the same place that they were after the accident happened and the cars came to rest, it really is a good idea to get photos of that. And you want to get photos of the other person's registration, their license plate, their driver's license, their insurance card. And if you feel anything at all is odd going on, you really do need to call the police. Sometimes it's a small accident. It's just a hit on the back bumper in traffic, like on 495, and people pull over and they say, hey, let's just exchange information. That's okay. You don't always have to call the police in situations like that, but you got to make sure you get the photos and get all these people's information. But that aside, you really want to talk to a lawyer before you talk to an insurance company. So that's good to do pretty soon after the accident. I tell people, look, if you're really hurting and you need to take an ambulance, go to the hospital. You don't have to call me at the hospital, but before you call the insurance company, you should call a lawyer, because the insurance company, as soon as you call them to report an accident, they ask to take a statement from you. And they twist your words around. They use your statement against you. And they're trained. These insurance adjusters, they're trained professionals on, how to skirt around accepting responsibility and how to ask questions in a certain way that make it sound like you may potentially have contributed. One thing that you probably aren't aware of, Odo, is that in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, we have a law called contributory negligence. Most states, over 40 states, have a law called comparative fault. And the way comparative fault works is the other person causes an accident, but you maybe are partially at fault. Maybe you could have stopped. Maybe you were speeding. Maybe you could have seen them and done something to avoid it. And maybe you're found to be 10% at fault or 20% at fault for an accident. In most states, you can still recover in that situation. Your recovery is discounted by the percentage of your fault. So if you were, making the number simple, if you had a case that's worth $10,000 and you are 10% at fault, they knock $1,000 off, and now the case is a $9,000 case. And that seems fair. That's what most states do. I mean, you could apply that if it's a $100,000 case, it's a $1 million case. But in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, we have a law called contributory negligence, which is really an unfair law. It goes back to the common law. It's a very old law, and it's kind of stuck around for a long time. And I wish it would change, but that's the current law we have. And what that means is if you contribute to the negligence, hence the term contributory negligence, if you contribute even 1%, you get nothing. You get no recovery at all. That's the law in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, and a few other states where so I've been in court before where a defense lawyer will hold up a piece of paper, hold the piece of paper up, rip off the tiniest little corner of that piece of paper and say, and drop it on the floor. If you think the plaintiff was even this much at fault, you can't give them anything. And so it's really important that the clients appreciate that when, talking about what happened in the accident. Of course, we guide them through these things. But if someone calls an insurance company right after an accident or the next day, they haven't spoke to an attorney yet, the insurance company pounces right on them to take a recorded statement from them. And they know what questions to ask. When did you see them? Did you not catch them? Did you not see them? Do you think you could have stopped? And if you give them anything, you're done. And it's very hard to get out of these statements once they're given. It's hard to, have someone go back on the words they've already spoken. So it's really important to speak with an attorney before you talk to the insurance company. Look, some cases are pretty cut and dry about who's at fault. You're sitting there at a red light, completely stopped, waiting for the light to change, and someone behind you just isn't paying attention. They ran right in the back of you. Pretty clear that the insurance company will accept fault for that. Doesn't mean that doesn't mean that they're going to pay you what you deserve, but they'll probably accept fault. But there's a lot of times where the insurance company, they really try to take a statement from someone and get information out of that statement that's going to hurt them later on. And that's why one of the first things I always ask a client when they first contact us is, have you made a claim yet with the insurance company? And if so, have you given them a recorded statement? And if they say, no, I haven't, I'm a lot more comfortable with that than if the other way around happens. And if not, if they've given a statement, we always try to get those statements right away. So we know what they've said and how to address that in the case. So, the best time really is as soon as you can call an attorney, you really should. And a lot of people call us the day of the accident or the next day. They see how they're feeling too. And a lot of times too, when these insurance companies take a recorded statement from you, they do it right after the accident. And they ask you, all right, are you hurt? And you might say, no, I'm not hurt. And then the next day you wake up and all the adrenaline wore off and you realize, oh my God, I can't get out of bed. The amount of people who've told me that they feel worse the day after the accident than the day of the accident is astonishing. It's most people. Or when the insurance company takes a statement, they say, okay, you're hurt. Tell me everywhere you're hurt. And you may say, oh, my neck hurts a little bit. My back hurts a little bit. And that's all you say. And then you don't realize, well, maybe the reason your neck was hurting is because you got a problem in your shoulder and it's kind of radiating, along this area here and into your neck. I mean, and then the insurance company says, well, you never told us about your shoulder before. So, it's really good to talk to a lawyer before you end up talking to the insurance company. That's the best time to talk to a lawyer. Not saying you have to call me right at the accident scene. You haven't even got out of your car yet. You call your lawyer. I've had that happen, but again, just let that play out. Talk with the police if they come, exchange information, get all the other person's information and take photos. And then, before you talk to an insurance company, you should talk to a lawyer.
Great advice. Thanks, Zach. The team isn't very important in surrounding yourself with the right people. I know earlier you mentioned, I think your team comprises about 8 or 9 total individuals, some attorneys, some paralegals. How do you go about finding the right people to place in the right roles for your team?
Finding good help is difficult. It's always been difficult. It's hard to find people who are willing to go the extra step, and that's not just in a law firm. That's in any business. We try to hire people with good personalities that we think are going to be flexible, be able to help out with other people's cases, and to really care and go the extra mile, because you can find someone who can do a job, but to find someone who cares is rarer. A lot of people, they can check in and check out and get their paycheck, but to find someone who's really willing to make sure that the clients are happy, make sure that they're seeing all the right doctors, make sure to check up on them and get any of their additional needs addressed in cases. And it's not easy to find those people, but those are the people we search out, and when we grab them, we hold on to them. We try, I know we pay above the market rate for the people who work for us, because when we find good people who are able to do the job, we don't want to let them go. How do we find most of our people? Honestly, it's over time, and we haven't really had to hire anyone recently because we've had the same staff for a while, but it's mostly on Indeed. We find people. Craigslist is hit or miss. I've put ads on Craigslist, and how you just kind of get pushed down the list when it's on Craigslist. So in the first few days, I'll get like 100 resumes sent to me, but then 4 or 5 days later, a week later, you're not getting as much anymore. And but I felt the quality of the candidates on Indeed was better. I've also had people come from other places. I've had this personal injury community it's a smaller community. There's a lot of lawyers who do this, but the firms that know what they're doing, that do a good job, they all know each other. And so I've had times where one of my paralegals said, "Hey, I know you're looking for a paralegal, and I know someone who works somewhere else, and they don't want to work there anymore. They're not happy. They're going to look for a position anyway. Would you interview them?" And we did that, and we hired someone great that way. So that's how we have found some people. But we've been fortunate that we have had a good staff for several years, and we really look for people who see us as a team all together. Some law firms, the paralegals are kind of pitted against each other because they look at how many cases did paralegal A settle this month and how much money was brought in. How many cases did paralegal B settle this month and how much money was brought in? And that's how their performance is evaluated. And the problem with that is paralegal B doesn't want to spend any of their time working on paralegal A's case, and vice versa. Because they say, look, I got to get my own numbers up. I got to make sure I'm getting out enough cases. I'm studying enough cases that my cases are moving along, and they don't want to work on someone else's case. And I've seen that, and that's not the approach we take in our office. We are a team. We are like a family. I mean, obviously I am a family with my mom, but we really like to look at our firm as a small family. And if someone's out, it happened this morning. I have one person who was out today, and I asked someone else. I said, "Hey, I need to get this done. Can you do this job on this case?" And the person said, "Sure, no problem." Because we don't view what this person did versus what that person did and pin them against each other. We look at overall, are our clients happy? Are the cases moving along? Are things going the way we want to be? And, we all pitch in and work on things together and work, sometimes people work on a case they haven't worked on before. And it might just be for 1 hour, but that's how I like to structure our office, and I like to have people who are team players.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a whole team environment. You mentioned as far as bringing people who are kind and care about the client. I'm curious, do you have them take some kind of EQ test, emotional intelligence test beforehand or anything like that?
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay.
That's actually that'd be a good thing to maybe implement and see how that goes. I'd be curious how that goes. But a personal injury paralegal, there are certain things that they need to do their job. There's bare minimum requirements of, opening claims, obtaining medical records, sending letters of representation, getting health insurance liens, confirming balances, making sure the clients are set up with treatment, that they have the proper paperwork for any time they're missing from work. All these things, these are the basic requirements. But I've interviewed so many people, paralegals over the years, that you can kind of see past that and see who goes the extra step, who calls the client when they're not required to, who calls the client and says, hey, I just want to check in with you after your first visit. How did it go? Do you like the doctor's office? Is the physical therapy going well? Did you like this neurologist you saw?
Mhm.
How's it going with work? Do you need help with things? Or the people who are willing to chip in. And I'm not saying people have to like work extra hours. I'm just saying the people who are willing to go the extra step to make sure the clients are happy. And those are the people I search out for, or the people who say, hey, look, I'm here to be a team player and help out the law firm. It doesn't have to be just my client. I'm not here for kudos. I'm here to, help and make sure everyone's doing well. And that's the kind of person that you can see it. You can see in their, you can sometimes even just within 5 minutes, you can tell someone's personality. Is this someone who's here just to put in their hours and go home? Or is this someone who really is going to care about their clients the way that I do, the way that my mom does? Because we need extensions of ourselves. I can't be on the phone all day with clients, especially if I have be in court. I'm in a trial. If I'm in a trial, I can only work on one case all day. So, we need people who are willing to go that extra step and who are just willing to make sure that they do more than just the basic requirements to make sure clients are happy, and that and you can tell who that kind of person is a lot of times when you interview them. That's what I look for, because you can't teach someone work ethic, you can't teach a personality. You can teach someone how to set up a claim and how to do this job, but you can't teach those kind of intangible things. And so that's what I look for when I'm hiring someone.
That's great. Zach, do you feel you have any specific habits or traits that have helped you in business or even just on your personal side of things as well?
That's a good question, Odo. Let's see. I like to think I'm an organized person. That's important. You know,
Hmm.
uh, that's gone way back for me. Even when I was in law school, I was always taking really good notes in class, and I color code things. I would make notes and I'd highlight them in Microsoft Word. I'd highlight things yellow, green, blue, whatever. And to me, they all meant different things. I mean, if you looked at it, you'd probably be like, "What am I looking at here?" But to
Rainbow.
me, yeah, exactly. But to me, it meant something, and I bring that into what we do now. And technology is big for me too. Um, and so I like to stay organized. I make lists, I color code things. I have, things on I print out and I put on the board next to my desk, or I keep things on my screen about, just different colors mean different things. And so that's to me, something that's been helpful, because there's a lot on my mind and there's a lot on my, staff's mind, especially when at any given time we could have a few hundred cases. We have to make sure that everything is moving on every case. And part of that is also, like I was mentioning a moment ago, technology. So when I first started working with my mom, she was a little bit more antiquated in her system of doing things, and she worked very well for her for many years. But when I came in, I said, look, we need to change how we're doing things. We need to implement a case management software. And so one of the first things I did was we implemented a software that is specific for law firms. In fact, specific for personal injury law firms. And it tracks all aspects of the case. You can keep all your information in there to the point that you don't even need hard file anymore. We're totally paperless now. We get all the medical records and we scan them. They go right into the file. Everything is digital, which makes it easy to pull up your cases anywhere. I could be on vacation, bring my laptop, and I can work and pull up my cases. But what's great about the case management software is it tracks everything in the case, all the medical bills, all the records, what's owed, what's not owed, what do we owe on a health insurance lien, how much is being offered on a case, when did we last talk to an insurance adjuster, and the client, all of that. And that is so valuable to have that information handy there. We can pull it up instantly. Okay, I see the last time you called me was, 2 weeks ago at 3 p.m., things like that. We talked about this, and this is what happened after that. So I think that being organized, being up on technology is really important. Everything we do, like I said, paperless, all the faxes come in digitally. Everything we fax goes out digitally. We don't have to actually go to the fax machine and fax something. It's crazy to even talk about faxes nowadays, but I work in an antiquated business. Personal injury, it's so in the past in the sense of how I deal with these insurance companies. Half the insurance companies I deal with, they don't even accept email. I can't even email the insurance adjuster. If I need to talk to them, I have to either talk to them on the phone, which is fine, but if I have to send them documentation, they actually ask me to mail it, put it in the mail and mail it, or fax it to them. Sometimes I
Wow.
have to fax a lot of pages, hundreds of pages, where I said, can I just send you an encrypted email? Can I
Yes.
send you a Dropbox link? They said, no, we don't do that. And then when we settle a case, half the time my clients ask me, can I get a direct deposit? Can you just deposit the funds in my account? I say, I wish I could, but the insurance company mails me a check. Then we have to wait for it to clear the bank account. Then I can give you a check, and everything is done by check. So, I try to use as much technology as possible by having, case management software, doing everything. We can, work remotely. We have the ability for us to log into our computers from anywhere. And, everything we do, like I said, e-faxing, so we can be fully paperless. But there still are some constraints with the technology dealing with these insurance companies that are, move in an antiquated fashion.
Zach, speaking of technology, I don't know, do you use AI in business in your practice? And if so, how do you see it changing anything for what you do day to day?
I am skeptical of AI at this point. You see a lot of, I think it's still early.
Hmm.
I believe that AI can be something that's great one day, but you see things that you have to be cautious to put your name behind something that you didn't fully vet yourself. And an example is, and I don't know if you've heard about this, but an attorney got in a lot of trouble in New York sometime within the last year, 6 months to a year or so, where he wrote, I'm not sure if it was a brief or a motion, he wrote something to the court. He asked Chat GPT to write it for him. And Chat
Okay.
GPT, it made up cases. It legitimately made up fake cases to support this position that they were taking. And he probably read it and thought, oh my God, this is a great legal memo. This is a great brief. Look at all these on point cases. The problem is the cases were fake. Chat
Wow.
GPT made them up. The whole
Okay.
case never even happened. It would be like Otto versus Zack,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Montgomery County Circuit Court case number this. Well, that case never was real. It never happened. But and that attorney got into a good amount of trouble for that. The court said, look, first off, this is a dangerous game you're playing here. But if you're going to play this game, you at least have to go and vet these cases and make sure that
Yeah.
they're real cases. You can't just, accept this AI version of this memo that, someone's paying you to create, or you're getting a legal fee for, and you just went with the technology and then it was all bogus. And so that's obviously an extreme example, but I'm just skeptical right now. I'm sure that there will be a time where AI and automation can help, where we put in, our client went to this particular hospital and the AI can generate requests to get their medical bills and records without, us having to actually do that work. That's possible that happens, and that would be a great benefit if and when that happens. And I can see how AI can make our lives a lot more efficient in our office, but we're not at that point yet. But
Yeah.
like I said, I'm big on technology. I've always liked technology, and it's something that I do keep my eye on.
Yeah. Coming to an end here soon, Zach, what do you know now that you wish you would have known at the start of your career?
That's another great question, Odo, putting me on the spot. You know, I'd say, from a perspective of running a business, it's very different than just being a lawyer. When I first was in another law firm, I didn't have to think about running a business. I just thought about being a lawyer, handling my cases. Now I wear many hats. I'm an
Hmm.
employer. I have, to handle things with all our employees. I have to run a law firm, making sure that everything's running smoothly, all our bills are paid, we have insurance and all of that. But at the end of the day, I'm still a trial lawyer and I'm still handling a full caseload. So it's a lot to juggle. And I think over time, that's something I've learned to manage much better. I've learned to be much more, and we talked a little bit about interviewing earlier, but I've learned a lot better about how to issue spot the people I want versus don't want in an interview, not just about what your skill set is, but about the kind of person you are and your work ethic. And I've learned a tremendous amount about being a trial lawyer. And, you know, um, lawyers are learning every day. I watch a lot of seminars from lawyers who are, considered to be the top lawyers around the country, who get very big verdicts, who, can try complex cases. And even they are always saying how they're changing their approach, how they used to do X, Y, and Z in trial. And, after COVID, that's changed. And now they do ABC in trial. And then now, we're not right at the beginning of COVID. Now we're, come out of it. Now they're doing DEF at trial. Things are always evolving. And so I've learned a lot more about that. And I've learned a lot about the business of insurance. It's a nasty business, but because, like I was saying earlier, they're happy to collect your premiums and be your friend at that point. But when it comes time to paying out, you realize very quickly that these insurance companies are not your friend. And I've learned so much about just the reality of the world and how it works, and that if you don't go out and take what you deserve, fight for it, no one's going to hand it to you. And that's something I've really learned, and that's why I'm busy and have a job, because of that. But knowing that, knowing kind of more about how the world works, not being naive, that's changed a lot for me over the years.
You just mentioned now, as far as wearing many hats, one of them being the business owner hat, and then the other also the practicing law hat. If someone's listening to this, Zach, and they wanted to start their own business, maybe their own law firm, or maybe something totally different in a different industry, what advice would you give this business owner as far as any pointers when starting this business?
Don't cut corners. Hire the right people. Don't, you get what you pay for with people too.
Hmm.
You really do. If you want a good employee, you want someone who's really going to care, you have to show them you care about them too. And you have to be right. You have to treat those people fairly. You have to understand that people have their own obligations, their own families, their own reasons why they maybe not be able to work on a certain day, or or you have to treat people fairly, and you treat them fairly, they'll treat you fairly. And that's something that's really important. If you're someone is starting their own business, you have to surround yourself with the right people, the right employees, people that are going to get along well. And you don't always know up front. Sometimes people can put on a show, and then you realize after you hire them that they're not who you thought they were. But you at least have to make that a goal, to surround yourself with the right people. And depending on what kind of business you're in, I'm a big believer in technology, as I've mentioned. If you can use technology in your business to make your life easier, you should. If you're starting a personal injury law firm, you need case management software. I was talking to a buddy of mine recently who's a chiropractor, and he was telling me how great the chiropractic software he uses is. I mean, so depending on what kind of business you're in, look into what technology is out there for you, and make sure you surround yourself with the right people, and get a good mentor too. It's good to have a good mentor. I still talk to lawyers all the time about the people that I've known since I started practicing, people that worked in my old law firm, people I know just from meeting them doing this type of law. And it's always good to have people you can have bounce your ideas off of. Hey, I'm going into a trial next week. What do you think about this? How do you think a jury wouldn't, like this fact, or what do you think about that fact? Those are important things. So it's okay to, be a little vulnerable, open yourself up, ask for help, ask for advice, surround yourself with the right people, and make sure you're starting out with a solid foundation. Because if you start out with a cracked foundation and you're trying to cut corners just to get the ball rolling, do it cheap, do it quick, that all comes back later to bite you. So, having a solid foundation with the right people, that's, to me, the most important thing when you're starting a business.
That's great advice. What would you say is your biggest challenge with your role at Feinberg Myers today?
Well, again, I really like to make sure my clients are happy, and I try to do a good job for everyone. And I think my biggest challenge is making sure there's enough hours in the day to do it. And I give 100% on things. So sometimes, some people may think, oh, well, I can review this quickly. Let me just get this done. Let me put something out. Let me draft this quick motion to the court on this. And once I start something, I have to do the best job I possibly can. And even if that takes me more time, and that maybe is a flaw of mine, that I could do something in, an hour, that would be okay. But I decide to take 3 hours to do it to make it great. And I believe all my clients deserve that. But, when you do that, it takes a lot of time. And, between running a law firm, the business side of it, and actually practicing law and doing all the things that need to be done, there's just not enough hours in the day. And that's my biggest challenge. And so I find myself working a lot at nighttime. We have dinner. I put my daughter down. I have a 3-year-old daughter. She goes down to bed. And a lot of times I get back on my computer and I work for a few more hours. And it's not, what I'd like to do, but I would rather make sure all my clients are happy and that I give the best possible representation I can to them, because they just get this one case. To the insurance company, your case could be one of 20,000 cases. It could be one of 100,000 cases. We're talking the big insurance companies, State Farm, Allstate, Geico, Progressive, Nationwide. These companies, they have so many claims open, but for you just have one case. And so I really want to make sure that my client has the absolute best representation, and we push their cases hard as we can for them. And but by wanting to make sure I do right for everyone, it means I'm working a lot. So that's probably the one thing I'd say about that. But again, if you look at our reviews and actually read them, it's just not, hey, 5-star review. If you actually read the reviews, you'll see that what I'm saying is supported. It's backed up by our clients. And so that, again, that's important to me. And if I ever have a client who's unhappy about something, I lose sleep over it. I think about it, and I want to make it right for them. So that's, I guess, what would be my biggest constraint is, I wish that there was 40 hours in the day, not 24, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's many of us. I'm same thing. After we do dinner, I put them down and it's back on the computer. I think that's many of the lives of business owners. So you're definitely not alone there.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I mean, there's pros to being a business owner too. I mean, if I need, take off a day, I don't have to ask someone for permission. I had a thing the other day, end of the year for my daughter's preschool, and they had a whole little celebration. I took off the morning and was able to go to that. And, I got to make up the hours some point later to get the work done. But it's not like I have to ask permission of someone. And that to me is important. I don't want to have a boss. I'd like to live the rest of my life without having, a boss over top of me, talking about my hours and things like that. And so that's obviously a pro to owning a business. I mean, yeah, of course, to owning a business. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. You're the final decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
You can't put this off on someone else and say, hey, I don't know what to do here. This is your business. You figure it out. I'm the guy who has to figure it out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, but you know, with um, with the added stress and the hard work and the extra hours you put in, though, it really is all worth it at the end of the day when you can. The harder you work, the better you do. And when you own your own business and you can see that firsthand, that's a great motivator too to to keep working hard. And but no, no one who is successful and owns their own business can get away with just 40 hours a week. I mean, look,
Mhm.
there are some people who can and do, but at least not in the legal field.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Zach, so what does the future look like for you in the law firm? What are you most excited about for the next couple of years?
Well, I you know I really like that we have good staff, good good clients, and in the future, I'd like to maybe integrate more technology if it's around, and see how we can streamline getting the cases moving for clients, and maybe we'll have to expand our firm some, but I feel great about our firm and where we've grown to. When I first started working with my mom in 2015, we were taking on about a third as many cases as we take now. Now we take on three times as many cases as we did then,
Wow.
and I'm happy about that, and I like to see our firm how it's grown, and we've come to be where we are. I don't ever want to be one of these firms that's huge firm, 100 employees, advertise on TV, but because then you kind of get away from the specific client attention. But I really like that we have built a great firm with great employees, good processes, and I'd like to see that continue into the future, and see where things can be tweaked here and there to become more efficient. I think any business over time, you find little areas you can make a little tweak here, a little tweak there, become more efficient, and um, I think that that's what's exciting to me, and to continue to give good service to our clients, continue to make them happy. That's what again motivates me and keeps me going.
When you're not busy working, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
Well, I have a daughter who, like I said, who's 3.
Yeah,
So
three.
between work and having a toddler, you don't get that much more free time, right? Um, but I love biking. Not that I'm part of a team or wear the tight spandex or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm not that intense with it. But a lot of my free time lately, I get outside. I like to just ride my bike. Go for an hour, relieve stress. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to just go for a drive. That's always fun. Just kind of head out further out into the middle of nowhere. Not yesterday, 2 days ago on Sunday on Father's Day, once my daughter was down for a nap, I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a nice little drive. I went out all the way till I was seeing cornfields out in
Oh,
up by
wow.
Frederick, and so it's fun, but and I guess that's a lot of what I like to do is, spend time with my family, go to the pool in the summertime. One of my favorite things to do in the world is snowboarding. I've been doing that since I was a kid. I grew up, my parents threw me on skis when I was like 2 or 3 years old. And then when I became a teenager, I thought, you know what, I want to try snowboarding. And I haven't turned back since then. I've been snowboarding for 25 years, haven't put on skis since then. It's really my favorite thing to do. I really like nature and getting outside. Sometimes I like to go to Great Falls and walk around, go, walk on the path or get off the path a little bit and do a little bit of a hike. But, when I'm out there snowboarding, which I like to travel when I go. So like I'll go skiing or snowboarding. I'll go snowboarding in Colorado. This past year, I went out to Utah for the first time to Park City. And just when you get out there and you look around and you just see all the snow and the mountains, and you try to get out to where you don't see all the people at the bottom or where the lines are. You really get out there where there's almost no one around you. It's very peaceful, kind of one with the nature.
Hmm.
I love that. So, and again, traveling. I love to travel too. But day to day, with between work and raising a toddler, your days go by and then you're working again at nighttime. Um, but you just try to have as much balance as you can, which is tough sometimes when you own a business and you're
Sure.
a lawyer and you got to go to trials. And, before you have to go into a trial, the amount of prep is extensive. And I fortunately have a great wife who supports me and understands that if I have a trial coming up, I may be working on the weekend, I may be working late at night. But again, that's me having to give 100% to my clients, like I said, because I can't give 99%. I have to give 100%. And maybe that is a flaw of mine, that maybe 90% would be okay, maybe 75% would be okay to get the job done. But I prepare with, I seriously overkill in my prep before doing anything, a hearing, a trial. Um, so again, could be one of my flaws, but try to have a good balance, and that's important.
Zach, if people want to learn more about you and connect with you and learn about what Feinberg Myers is doing, where can they go to, please?
Sure. Well, of course, you could always Google our firm, Feinberg, Feinberg, Myers, Myers. You can read any of our reviews there. You can look me up at a profile on something called Super Lawyers, which is something that is it's a pretty good thing to be a part of. It's a recognition where other peers review you, and it's only given to, I think, 2.5% of lawyers each year are selected to be what's called a super lawyer. And I have been selected to that for many years. So you can look at that and see that I'm on there. So other awards I've received. I hate talking about myself so much in that regard, but I try to be humble. But you can look me up there. And then, of course, go to our website, fminjury.com. We have another website, dmvinjury.com, because, of course, this is where we are and where we practice. They all go to the same place. But our main site is fminjury.com or dmvinjury.com. They'll direct you to the same site. And, I'm happy to chat with people. Our office number is 301-765-0076. I really try to give people the best advice I can. I've had people call me, and it's clear it's not a case I'm able to take or handle, but I'll at least still give them some time on the phone and tell them, look, this is what you need to do. This is how you should go about this and handle this situation, because I really want to, still help people at the end of the day, even if it's not a case I can take. And there have been times I've talked to someone that I've never met before, that I've talked to them for 10 minutes, just saying, hey, I can't take your case, but this is what I think you should do to handle the situation you're in. And they appreciated me so much that later on, when they knew someone who needed a lawyer and was a case I could take, they referred them to me. So, I do believe in giving everyone some time, even if it's not a case you can take. Don't just shut them out. Still give them advice and talk to them. I'm still a lawyer at the end of the day. I want to help people. And, I know more about a situation than they might, or how to navigate it. But feel free to give me a call. You can always send me an email too. Myers, ZMYERS, at fminjury.com, like our website, fminjury. So Myers at fminjury.com, or give me a call, 301-765-0076, or check us out on the web.
Zach, thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time.
You too, Otto. I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure's all mine. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.